song because Stagger Lee can't shoot Billy in front of white kids. And if you come in on Bandstand, you've got to change the lyrics. And somehow Billy and Stagger Lee danced and lived. But the point is that it didn't start with Don Cornelius. The idea of black dance show television, or blacks on television. See, one of the first person to actually really take being serious about being black on television was a brother right here in New York City. His name was Ellis Hazlett. And Ellis Hazlett produced a show called Soul. And it was on public TV, it was on Channel 13. It was a major production. And Ellis Hazlett is the person who opened the doors and made people aware of the vibrancy and the richness and the vibrancy of black art, black culture, black music, and black personalities. And he did Soul. His co-host was a disc jockey from WWRL named Jerry Bledsoe. And Soul was a major production. And it was so successful that people began to create other shows. Positively Black on Channel 4, Like It Is on Channel 7. A number of other shows came out. Alma John had a show on Channel 11, Inside Bed-Stuy on Channel 5. All of those shows came as a result of the groundbreaking work that Ellis Hazlett did with Soul. And then came the black consciousness and the black arts movement. And the black arts movement created an environment that made everything black profitable. The black consciousness movement turned everything black into something that became very viable. You could sell anything. There was a brother who had these little leather pouches, about that big.
I think I remember those pouches.
Had little leather pouches.
Around your neck.
And around your neck, and he had some soil in there. And he said that he got it from Africa. And I don't know, he might have got it from Prospect Park. But he said he got it from Africa and he called it soul soil. And you sold that. You could sell anything, which is one of the reasons that black people, some black owners went into ownership of black radio, because it was a cash cow. And so on the strength of that kind of environment, Don Cornelius was the beneficiary of that environment. He could go to someone and say, I have an idea for a black version of American Bandstand. And see, what he would say is that, and it will sell just like everything else black is selling. And then Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff wrote the Soul Train theme. And that came out of Philly International, the Sound of Philadelphia. They took the Sound of Philadelphia and gave it some national visibility. That song would resonate with the audience. And that song drew people in before you even saw the show.
Right.
But everything that Kenny and Leon did had that kind of music. You know, they had hit after hit. They were really more so than Motown. Motown was the sound of America. And Motown was not trying to be black. You know, they just had black artists because white artists wouldn't sign with them. And the black artists they had were some of the finest performers on the planet. And the Motown rhythm section, you know, they used to do the rhythm track by themselves, and then the artists would come in and sing over the rhythm track. But the musicians recorded the rhythm track, the music track rather, like it was their own record. And so if you listen to just the music that was underneath the artists at Motown, that music could stand by itself.
Yes.
And then they had really wonderful singers. But Kenny and Leon in Philadelphia had another sense of urban reality and what was happening in the black community. All of that came together so that for Soul Train, and Soul Train being nationally broadcast, helped to showcase and celebrate, like you say, the music, the dance, the clothing, the style, everything. And it was at a time when black people were very much concerned with style. So there was a time when black men used to dress, when they used to leave the house, look like they paid attention to what they were putting on before they left the house. You know, there was a time when black men walked down the street. Nicky Giovanni wrote some poems talking about how good the brothers looked with their tight pants and stuff. You know, but there was a time when black men, they could be photographed at any time and put in a fashion magazine just based on how they looked as they went from day to day. You know, and Don Cornelius was an example of that. And black radio personalities were an example of that. If you saw a black disc jockey walking down the street in 1977, you would say, if you didn't recognize him, you would say, who is that? That's somebody. I lived in an apartment building. Hank Spann and I lived in the same apartment building. Hank Spann was a soul surfer on WWRL. And we used to ride up in the elevator together, a lot of times, coming from places together. And so one day I got on the elevator by myself. And a white guy got on the elevator. We were going up, and the guy said, listen, can I ask you something? I said, your friend, who is he? What does he do? Because he carries an attaché case, and he does, you know, his car's downstairs in the garage under the building. He's driving his Cadillac out of here every morning. He's got an attaché case, but he's clearly not an insurance salesman. You know, not with those clothes and that look and that cologne, and you know, who is he? But he looks like somebody. You know, there was a style that was very prevalent at that time. And so, black radio, just to sum it up, black radio, in changing from black to urban, in allowing corporate America to redefine black radio, and saying to black radio that if you're going to survive, you're going to have to change and be something that we are more comfortable with. Black radio agreed to do that. And it was a trick. Even when they did that, corporate America still said, we're not satisfied. Right. Because you really can't satisfy white supremacy.
No.
And what happens now is that on a lot of levels, there are, with using black star power, putting a black face on white supremacy. So you will watch black folk. See, there are black folk on the cover of half the magazines on the newsstand right now. So when you look and see Queen Latifah on 3 magazine covers and Jennifer Hudson on magazines and on television, and see all these black folk with this major kind of visibility, it doesn't occur to you that black folk no longer own any magazines. You know, there's a black face on white supremacy. Whites dominate in terms of ownership, control, distribution, but it doesn't resonate with you because it appears that black people are in charge, that black people are doing very, very well. It is, that is the function, that is how black star power is being used right now. Black star power, and it's not the stars necessarily understanding what they're doing or trying to cooperate with the demise of their own community. They are being paid and they are doing well. They don't necessarily know what the larger political context is, right? But let me, if you, any thoughts, any questions before we go any further? Yes.
You mentioned keywords, and I know that when people say urban affairs, does that click for people instead of saying, you know, we deal with politics or certain things? Are there certain keywords that people hear and then they know exactly what that means? So, for example, I used to work at Bloomberg's company, and I had a chance to talk to the Bureau of Bloomberg News, who was a woman. And I told her, I said, we do urban affairs. And somebody said, don't ever say that word to white people, because then that means that it means something, it means something totally different to them. It just came off my tongue. I didn't know what to say. I was just talking off my toes. So are there keywords that you say that they know exactly what, and they've given us these keywords and we might not even know, because I was ignorant to know what I was actually saying.
See, there's urban, for instance, doesn't always, like at Bloomberg, for instance, if they say we want to have somebody that's doing stories about the urban community, urban centers. Urban is referring most often to black people. Okay. In a company, it doesn't always have to refer to black people. If you talk about urban affairs, in a company that has an urban affairs department, that's the black department. Mm-hmm. If you are doing an urban story on what happens in urban centers, that's talking about black people. You know, sometimes it can mean just going out and doing a story on what goes on in any part of the city. See, the city is urban.
Yeah, that's
and there's the suburb, and then there's urban.
Right.
Right? And then there's the country. Right? There's rural.
Right.
Rural, urban, and suburb. And urban is supposed to be the city,
Right.
not just black people. However, in the political context, it is a code word, and it means black people. The Urban Affairs Department is the department that deals with black people. The urban centers, that's where black people live. But that's why they call it the urban center. They used to call it the inner city. And inner city, you know, meant black folk. Now it's called the urban center. And they're going to need to come up with a new word because now white folk are moving into the urban center.
Exactly.
Right. But it is, in a political context, yes, it does mean black. But what happened with you and somebody who says don't use that word, see, one of the things that happened with black people who work in corporate America, they try to anticipate what white people want from them. So nobody even had to tell them to tell you not to use that word. They will say that on their own. Trying to, see, one of the things that a lot of middle-class blacks in corporate America have perfected is how to punk out. So they have perfected compromise. And they think that compromise, backing down, punking out, is sophisticated business. They think that that's how you survive, that's how you do business. And so they have devised a number of ways that they use to step back, step down, take low, and call it being sophisticated. There was a black man who had a key position at back in the old days of CBS Records. And I had a choir, youth choir, some kids, 40 kids in my Respect Yourself youth choir. And this brother was supplied baseball jackets for the choir. So he told me, just come, tell me how many you need. You need 40, I'll take care of that. He told me to come to his office one point. I came, he wasn't there, and I told his secretaries, his assistants, that he told me to come, and he wanted this information, so I had the information. They said, oh, no, you have to write a letter. And you have to write a letter, explain this, explain that. This is how it works. They said, this is how it works. I'm telling you, this is how to get this done. And I said, no, what he's trying to do is exercise some power.
Right.
He's got the power to do this. So he's doing it without all of the bureaucracy. He's trying to flex some muscle, exercise some power. Oh, no. Now, listen, I've been in here for 20 years. I know. And what they were saying is that we know how to back down. We know how to take low. And so I never did the letter, and he did supply the jackets. I mean, I understood what he was trying to do. He understood what I was trying to do. But the people who work in corporate America are always, very often, looking for ways to compromise and to make concessions. And when they make concessions, they call it that is them being sophisticated and knowledgeable.
Which is not.
Right.
To me, it seems like it's like the dumbing down of everything. Like
Well,
instead of standing up for what you believe and know, they just prefer to just, like you say, punk it out at the expense of the greater good.
Absolutely. There's a dumbing down of America that's going on, not just black folk.
Yeah.
But there's a dumbing down of America. That's why the Republicans can run the dumbest white people in the country. See, they've got these mediocre white folk running for the presidency. But the point that they are trying to make, and they can get away with it when there's no black radio that responds to it.
Right.
See, the point that they are trying to make is that any white boy is better than a black guy. And so there's a movement now to exalt mediocre white people. If you look at television, there's a thing called swamp people, and there's a cable, Larry the Cable Guy. There's a whole bunch, there's a pawn shop show. There's all kinds of things that show off very ordinary or almost ignorant white folk. And there's a thing that they call them rednecks. And on satellite radio, there's a redneck channel, and they got redneck jokes. And the point that they are trying to make is that these are the real Americans. This is the salt of the earth. And these are the Americans whose ideas and values we have to promote.
Yeah.
Any white boy is better than a black president. And as they make that argument, they can get away with making that argument. They can get away with making that argument because black radio is no longer responding. Black radio is not talking about. So here in New York, there's talk. Gary Bird is on one day a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
The brothers on KISS on Sunday morning, only on Sunday morning for 2 hours.
That's right.
You know, I think Mark Riley is on WWRL
in the morning.
talking in the morning. I don't know how many people still listen to WWRL. You know, the format is so fragmented. It's a classic example of a station that is twisted into contortions trying to be what they think white folk will approve of.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's like an old thought
So
pattern.
you don't have, there was a time when I was on the air Monday through Friday.
Yep.
I was on the air at night, Gary Berg was on the air in the daytime, other people, Clayton Riley was on the air in the daytime. We were talking and we were competitive on the level of ideas.
That's right.
You know, and I think that when you remember the Million Man March?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah.
You
They
were-
wouldn't let me in, but
Yeah.
I was in the Channel 7 van. I just happened to become friends with him.
Okay.
You're the only black woman here.
No, there was some.
There's some sense.
Yeah. But you remember the Million Man March? You remember that every major black and white political personality in this country said don't go.
Mm-hmm.
All of them said don't go.
That's right.
Right? Jesse said don't go.
Yep.
Sharpton, everybody. David Dinkins, Rudolph Giuliani, Charles Rangel.
Yep.
Every major black and white political personality in the country said don't go.
Wow.
Dr. Clark said don't go.
Dr. Clark said don't. Dr. Clark was mad at the Muslims about Malcolm. So the Muslims could never do anything right for Dr. Clark. You know, if Farrakhan was in a boat with the Pope, Farrakhan's in a rowboat with the Pope, and the Pope's hat blew off. Farrakhan stepped out of the boat, walked on water, picked up the hat, gave it back to the Pope. Dr. Clark said, see that Farrakhan can't swim.
He just walked on water.
They couldn't do anything right for Dr. Clark. Aside from him, everybody else also said don't go. Black radio said go. Did they go?
Yes,
Yeah.
they were.
At the point where black radio, like a 20th century underground electronic railroad, drove the Million Man March, is when corporate America said, that's it. We've got to shut them down.
Yep.
There's too much influence. There's too much power. We took everybody that we own, everybody. We own black folk, we own white folk. We got all the people we own to say don't go. People on Black Talk Radio said go. And more than 1 million men went. It's too much power. And it was similar to when the police were out in front of the police precinct and the brother had been beaten, and Malcolm came out in front of the police precinct and just did like that, and the crowd turned around and walked away.
Too much power.
And the police captain said to the reporter from the Amsterdam News, that's too much power.
One man, that's right.
They recognize power, and they recognize the power of black radio. There's a lot we could talk about in terms of black radio, but I got to go. But yes,
How is the internet helping the situation?
the internet is as it is called alternative media. So there is another vehicle. The internet does not replace commercial radio.
Right.
Nothing replaces radio. The internet has to work along with radio. But there's still, see, the radio is, well, the fun is, it's always with you. See, radio, you ever notice when you listen to radio, radio is never more than an arm's length away from you. If it's in your car, it's right here. If it's on your desk, it's right here. You know, if it's in your house, if you're in the kitchen, whatever, the radio is right here. Radio is right there with you all the time. And so, and when you're on the radio, anybody who is a broadcaster, see, one of the things that we teach broadcasters is that don't broadcast as though you are talking to thousands of people. Talk as though you're talking to one person.
Right.
Because in a very real sense, you are only talking to one person. People listen to the radio by themselves. So you see people walking down the street with headsets on, that's one person listening to you. If you're in your car, that's one person. Most often, people don't gather around the radio, families don't gather around the radio like they used to back in the day, way back in the day, like they gather around television. Radio is a very personal medium. So you're only talking to one person at a time. So you shouldn't be on the radio saying, Mr. G, and I got to move you back and put your foot on the route. Because that pushes people back. If you want to get people to listen to you, lower your voice. If you lower your voice when you're talking to somebody, just try this. If you lower your voice when you're talking to somebody, you will notice that they lean forward in order to hear what you're saying. When you're talking on the radio, if you talk in a conversational tone, people will be more inclined to lean into what it is that you're saying. Right? Radio operates in a very personal space, not in a public space. So you might be talking to 10,000 people, but you're talking to each one of them one at a time, as individuals. So radio is very, very personal, and therefore radio is very, very powerful. So alternative media absolutely works, but it works in conjunction with, we can't give up radio
No.
for the internet. We've got to have access to both.
Does that include, like college radio stations as well? Non-commercial radio stations that are helping to filter in and close the gap to the situations that concern people of color, African people?
Yes, absolutely. Radio, wherever it is, college radio. There's some college radio stations that are like HUR in Washington, D.C., which is where the Quiet Storm came from. You know, they created the Quiet Storm. And HUR is a major, what used to be a major force in Washington, D.C. Public radio. There's a public station in Washington, D.C. as well. I forgot, KPFW, something like that. I don't think it would be a K in D.C. Be a W.
East Coast.
But those radio stations, like BAI here in New York, see, that's a 50,000 watt FM signal. It's a powerful signal. You know, so yes, those radio stations are very effective. Your station in Harlem, where Brother Leroy is,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
that is an important radio station, and Leroy is part of a national coalition of broadcasters. Ask him about the National Coalition of Broadcasters.
I will.
Tell him I told you to ask him to give you the conference number so that you could join us on Saturday mornings when the National Coalition does a broadcasters national conference call where broadcasters from around the country talk about ideas for that we all want to promote at the same time and come up with talking points, background information. It's a real good conference call with people from, we've got people from the major markets who are from Detroit, St. Louis, Atlanta, Washington. U.S. from New York. Mark Riley is on those conference calls from New York. And we're saying to broadcasters, here's the central idea we want to promote. See, we can't get our idea out into the marketplace in an hour like CNN.
Right.
It might take us 3 days, but if we're all saying the same thing,
Exactly.
it'll get across the country
Exactly.
in 3 days or in a week. And one of the things that black broadcasters are asking is, as this political season unrolls, where are black people? See, black people have to understand that we have something at stake in what happens in 2012, just like everybody else in the world. We have more at stake than just a black face in the White House. We have real issues at stake like everybody else. Social Security money, health care, quality of education, all kinds of things. Social justice. See, black people have to make an important decision. Do we want social justice or social harmony? Do we want racial harmony or racial justice? Because we're being offered racial harmony. And so black broadcasters are beginning to raise that question and say, it's not that you should not support Barack Obama, but Barack Obama has to hear from the black community in a more meaningful way. That we've got to nudge him and push him in a more progressive direction. Don't just let the white progressives be the only ones who are pushing him, because then they're going to be the only ones who get anything from his administration. But black folk have more at stake than just the emotional gratification of a black president. We have more at stake out in 2012. What happens in this election and who runs this country. See, we are concerned about the recolonization of Africa, which is happening now, with the U.S. government presiding over that. You know, we are concerned about things that are happening that have a global effect. And We just can't sit and be silent.
That's right.
We have to at least be willing to say, here's what our people need. And so Black radio is the place where those discussions are beginning to take place. And people can challenge it, ask questions about it, but we need to have some black folk. For instance, you see that these Republicans just won,
Nevada,
whoever won,
Florida.
yeah, whoever won North Carolina.
Yeah.
One of them won in North
I
Carolina.
don't believe
Makes
it.
no difference.
I don't believe it.
Doesn't make any difference. But he won. Only Republicans are voting. So he won in North Carolina. He won in South Carolina. Wherever. Do you understand that you cannot win in North Carolina without the black vote?
That's right.
So how is it that they are not considering the black vote in South Carolina? Because they intend to steal the vote.
Exactly. Going back.
They intend to not allow black people to vote in North Carolina. They intend for the voting machines to break down. They intend to steal the vote. They are writing black folk off. Black talk radio is where that needs to be raised even now. And begin to put that word out there even now. All right? I know we're running out of time. I'm running out of time. But,
What's the conference called with some of us media personalities be done?
Yeah.
What's your contact for that? You know, they're still broadcasting. We're still on air, brother. Still can do it. We're younger. We're ready to push it.
not everybody on there is as old as we were.
No, I know that. I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we need to know.
Yeah.
We need to know.
So just call me. I'll explain the whole thing.
You got an email that anybody can get? Email?
Do I have email?
Yeah.
Yes,
Email.
yes.
Okay, take his email
I
down.
have email.
Say,
But
what's the email about?
bob.law, the number 4, at gmail.com.
Bob.law.
The number 4
at Gmail.
at gmail.com. Anybody? Yes.
There's technology that they have that can put people to sleep in an instant.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's an easy way to keep
Yeah.
anyone from doing anything.
Food is putting us to sleep.
Exactly, though, GMO.
This technology can just.
Yeah, it's true, but he is right. See, it is true that there is technology that can do all kinds of things. But they don't even have to use sophisticated technology on black people. They just open a McDonald's.
Right?
You know, and on the West Coast, they had to pass an ordinance that no more fast food restaurants could open in the black community for 5 years. Because just telling black people that it is unhealthy was not enough. People will continue to do it.
Exactly.
And there's bad habits, there are things that we are doing that are destroying us. And see, let me tell you, this is the last thing I want to tell you. It is important